Thanks for staying with us. Planet Green Cheese, episode number 395, is that right?
Correct.
Calling it Working Man. For those that are on the end, know what that means. So, lots of stuff to talk about. Start with, T-Pain is going to find me the article in a minute here, but it kind of segues into the story I wanted to tell about this case we had in Wayne County. But I saw last weekend there was an article, Detroit News or Free Press. Did we find it?
No, I found this other one.
That's not it.
I know.
All right. The article was rather strange to me because it was an article that was about a case in Wayne County where a judge had made a ruling that dismissed the charges against the accused. And the police officers were in the press lambasting the judge, saying that this person's dangerous and dismissed the case. And he had another case pending the same kind of way. Now, nothing that I'm saying should really be controversial, but I can understand how some people may be pissed off by the position I'm taking. But for sake of argument, let me just make my point. So, I read this article, and it is a police chief ripping on this 36th District Court judge that dismissed charges against the defendant, claiming how difficult it is for the officers to do their job. And it's hard to make the city safe when judges are doing things like this. And I have the article here. Police at odds with Detroit judge over recent rulings. A rare public spat is playing out in Detroit's 36th District Court that pits a judge against police officers who accuse him of being soft on crime. Excuse me. The judge here is William C. McConaughey, and he insists some of the criticism is designed to smear him or for refusing 7 months ago to lower a police officer's $1 million bond. Now, the police chief, James Craig, has been very outspoken. So the judge is a symptom of a broken system that often allows violent criminals back on the street. Let me say that again. The Detroit police chief criticized the 36th District Court Judge William C. McConaughey and said the judge, the system of is a symptom of a broken system that often allows violent criminals back on the street. And this dispute involves multiple cases that critics say, the critics of the judge say that the judge mishandled. So, what are those particular criticisms? There's a guy that had allegedly committed some robbery, and the judge had granted a $100,000 bond and tethered to this particular individual as a habitual criminal. And in a previous case, he later cut off the tether and fled to Clinton Township, where he was arrested 24 hours later. And so they were giving him a hard time about that. Also that the police officer that shot the kid with a taser who was on a ATV, remember this whole story? That was very, very distressing. That kid was fleeing on a bike and they tasered him, he died.
Yep.
And this judge refused to reduce the bond. And denied it a second time. He, of course, was a police officer, and that's what they think a lot of this came from. Now, I want to say this, that if one of the problems of our broken system, if I may speak to the police chief's comments that this judge is a symptom of that, is the fact that, well, there's a lot of them, but a problem is that judges are elected. Why do I say that? Because what is going on here is a discussion about the popularity of this particular judge. And the commentary and criticism by the police department here is going to make him unpopular and unelectable. And in doing so, it sets a tone for...
Are you sure about that?
Well, I'm saying the intent here. The
I know.
intent here. Now, I also want to preface it to this. Lawyers, despite the concept of the First Amendment, are not allowed to speak ill of the bench. Jeff Frazier, am I right?
You are.
There's no First Amendment right, if you're a lawyer, to speak ill of the bench. You can politely say things, but you can't be impolite, I would say.
Can be contemptuous.
But certain criticisms would be considered in that particular vein, publicly, potentially.
Granted.
So there's a limitations to where one would go. I would suggest that this kind of discussion by the police officers here are criticized. If to say for a lawyer to say, for example, Judge so and so is a symptom of the broken system. If I said that publicly, it was in an interview. I mean, that's bad. That's bad for me. Like, I would suffer some consequences, probably.
Politically, I would say.
Politically?
Yeah.
Politically.
Yeah, unless you're,
but also,
I mean, your First Amendment rights don't end.
but I think it's limited that you can't speak ill. I don't know. The Michigan Code of Professional Conduct has. We'll get back to this issue, but put it aside for a second.
You can't. Armed rebellion is prohibited, pretty much.
Right. But all right, we'll come back to that. I'll find the MPRC. But the point of that I'm trying to make from the story is that, first of all, how many times are people reading about cases being dismissed? It's not that often, okay? So in the grand scheme of things, the percentages of the way this thing is playing out is far favors this one instance, okay? And secondly, it's so inappropriate for the police officers to comment from a position of authority. They are not the judge. In fact, the whole point of the judge is to make a decision. The complaint that the person's dangerous is not evidence of the crime by which they were brought forth for the judge to evaluate. The problem here is that Chief James Craig thinks that because he says someone's dangerous, the judge should therefore believe it. In other words, this particular police officer wants the world to believe that if the police department says you're guilty or dangerous, then the judge should just believe it as is. That's not the way the system works. There's two sides, and in order for there to be equality and justice and an interest in due process afforded to the accused, not the police, you have to bend over backwards to ensure that fairness is applied. I applaud this judge. I don't know the facts of the case. I think any criticism for making a decision, of course, I'm not there. I don't know the circumstances of it. But I feel that this is the problem why more judges won't pull the trigger. They're afraid of the pushback, the unpopular opinion. The police, who are the trusted safety couriers in our community, are going to say, that's bad. He's contributing to the unsafety of our community, and it resonates. And that's not how it's supposed to be. In other words, it's difficult enough under the circumstance for a judge to make these decisions. I don't think judges are going out of their way to hurt the police, but I got to tell you, it's refreshing when a judge is willing to call out a weak case, dismiss the case, get more evidence. Don't complain about the judge. Build a better case. Anyways, so with that being said, I want to talk about this other case in Detroit where a 36th District Court judge threw out the case, and nobody's allowed to criticize this judge. I can tell you right now. If ever anyone's talking bad about this judge, I'm going to go sick. Kidding. We were talking earlier, Jeff Frazier, that the district courts are the place of nothingness.
It's a legal term of art, yes.
Nothingness and economic surplus, which seems to be a paradox of some kind. But that's what's going on. Anyways, it's very difficult oftentimes to get any headway in felony cases at the district court level. In my years of practice, the common mantra that a judge will respond in my motion opposing the bindover is, well, counsel, those are good arguments, but I guess you should make them to the jury. My standard that I have to evaluate here is whether or not probable cause exists if your client committed the crime, and whether or not probable cause exists the crime was committed. The officer got on the stand and said this, so I'm binding your client over. That's how it goes. So we were complaining about what kind of value, if any, takes place at the 36th District Court. And I would say that even though there has not been a lot of change in that, and I've probably heard that, I don't know, count it up, how many exams I do a year, 25. I mean, lots of times judges just totally kicking the ball down the field. I don't want to deal with it. We're going to punt. Let them try to run it back. No interest in getting involved in the issues, especially in the last few years, filing motion to the district court. No counsel. That's an issue for the circuit court. Not here. My concern is only this. In fact, we had a case that we were at today. I didn't mention it, but where because of that I just said, that the preliminary exam, some judges say, is exclusively for the issue of probable cause of the crime and probable cause of the defendant committed. They don't care about probable cause. They don't care about issues related to medical marijuana. And despite knowing that there may be medical marijuana cases, we'll bind over and ignore those. Jim Powers, I noticed that you were distracting me. What was going on?
I believe we have a caller.
Okay. Okay, fantastic.